So good morning, Catherine. How are you?
I'm fine, Greg. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. Um, some of you have seen some of these get to know the orchestra interviews in the past, so you know what this is all about. If not, my name is Greg Powell, and I'm the principal bassist and personnel manager of your Saginaw Bay Symphony Orchestra. And I've been having some fireside chats with various members of the orchestra so that you, our beloved audience, can get to know them better as human beings. My guest today is Catherine McMichael, who is our resident keyboard player. Now, I said keyboard. What instruments does that cover? What do you normally play in a season with the orchestra?
With the orchestra, I play piano, occasionally celeste, but in the rest of my life, I play handbells and I also play harp. You can sort of see the harp in the background there. I'm an intermediate harpist. I am not a gigger. I just play for fun.
Well, another keyboard instrument is the organ, and I know you've said you're not a true organist because
No.
they use their feet. I don't know how they do that. But
I don't know how they do that either. You know, I've been amazed when I play organ music and I think, oh, so that's what it's supposed to sound like when I hear a church organist play it, because you have to have very wise feet. And not only that, because the feet play the bass, the left hand doesn't play the lowest note. It generally plays like the middle range stuff. And I keep finding I have to move my left hand to the right spot. It's a completely different technique, really. Even, I mean, the keyboards, of course, are the same, but it takes someone with a little more global wisdom than myself to be a good organist.
Well, I hope I can twist your arm to be an organist. Our first concert this season, we're going to play on October 10th, but there'll be no audience at the Temple Theater, and it'll be recorded and edited and then broadcast on October 24th. And we opened the program with a very famous piece by Tommaso Albinoni, Italian Baroque composer, his Adagio for organ and strings. And I am absolutely convinced the organ part for this is totally within your grasp. And there are no pedals. We're going to use a digital Baroque portative organ that I just happen to own, just one keyboard. And so I'm hoping you will be our guest organist for the Albinoni Adagio.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to use my feet for anything besides the damper pedal, I should be fine.
You should be fine. So let's get to know you a little bit. What drew you to the piano when you were a little girl? How little were you?
I was little. My mom tells me I was about 3 years old when I started asking about playing the piano, which puzzled her because we didn't have a piano and none of my friends that she knew of had one. But somehow I just kind of knew I wanted to play, and we ended up getting a real relic of a upright. I mean, one of those huge old uprights. Used to be an old player piano, and we had it down in our foyer in our home in Schenectady, New York. And I just started playing that, and I always felt it was so cool because my first piano teacher, I was about 7, and we had the same birthday. Somehow that seemed like a sign. And I just always loved the piano. And I still do. I love playing the piano. It's the best instrument, you know. It's global. You can do everything on it. It's got all those notes, and it's a beautiful sound. I love it.
Well, it's wonderful that you were drawn to it at such an early age because, you know, at that age, our minds are like great big sponges. Mm-hmm. I was 4. I'll never forget the day when, totally surprised, a truck showed up at my parents' house and unloaded a piano. It was a Baldwin Acrosonic, one of those spinets, not huge. And I had no idea. And my mother said, "This is our piano, and I'm going to teach you how to play. And you're going to start learning how to play at the age of 4, which, you know, affected the rest of my life." So you studied through school all those years, junior high and high school? You took lessons and then off to university. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your university experience.
By the time I was in high school, we lived in Columbus, Ohio, which of course is home of Ohio State University. And I studied, during high school, I studied with the artist in residence at Ohio State, which was Professor George Haddad. but he suggested I go to University of Michigan because at that time, Ohio State didn't have a top-notch, I mean, like performance-oriented program. So I auditioned at University of Michigan and ended up studying with Louis Nagel, who has appeared, you know, in many venues around the state and still performing today. And then for my master's degree, I was with Theodore Lettvin for a while, and then I switched over to chamber music and studied with Eugene Bossert, which was fantastic. And both teachers were absolutely shaped my identity and abilities as a musician and as a pianist and as a collaborative musician, which is actually what I think of myself as now. Not a soloist so much as I love playing with other people.
Well, both Louis Nagel and Eugene Bossert are were remarkable human beings who shaped so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't it a small world? I run into Louis frequently at the Myers down the corner from us.
Yeah.
We tend to shop at the same store.
Yeah, he does, you know, it's always that weird thing, like when you see a teacher at a store and they actually have a life besides what you have in together in the studio. You know, I will mention something really, really interesting. When George Haddad was my teacher, he told me once about my piano genealogy. And I love to tell my own students because my genealogy includes Beethoven and Saint-Saëns. So in my pianistic instruction, if you go back and back and back, Beethoven is in my genes, and so is Saint-Saëns, and coming down from the French and the German Austrian side. So I tell my students, you are students of Beethoven here. I've been able to pass along that genealogy to all my students.
That's amazing. I was able to trace my grand teachers back several generations, and it's very comforting to know, to be a part of an ongoing tradition.
Oh, is it ever? And you know, Beethoven. I mean, Beethoven is probably my favorite composer to play. Grieg is my favorite composer in all ways, but just, you know, when you play Beethoven, you feel like you're walking with a great mind, and you just trying to keep up. It's a fantastic experience.
You mentioned Eugene Bossert, who shaped and touched so many lives. Remarkable human being. And we became friends after he retired. When he retired, age 65, he moved into Glacier Hills, a senior living facility, and spent, what, maybe 30 more years?
Yeah.
Living there. Glacier Hills has a common room where they have their meals and events, concerts and lectures and films and stuff. In that room is Mr. Bossert's piano. Mm-hmm. He left his piano to them and a portrait on the wall, and I've played some concerts and recitals there. And it's such a great feeling to see the Bossert piano and his portrait there in that hall.
And I've played that piano, and I played it for his memorial service. I was very honored to do that. And every time I sit at that piano, I remember the time he was demonstrating to students and broke a string way up high, sounded like a gunshot. I mean, this is the man, you know. He had power and tone, and you know, that the points that he made, I still use today, you know, playing the boundaries, you know, so we want to hear the high, we want to hear the low, the ping. He was always asking for the ping sound. And I mean, those lessons are with me still.
Of course they are. So you had your university experience, the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. What brought you to Saginaw?
Well, my husband, Rod Bieber, who when we first met, he was a graduate student at University of Michigan in violin, and his good friend was Guido Lamel, who was concertmaster of the Saginaw Symphony at that time, with Gideon Grau. Guido was graduating, and he was going to be leaving, and Gideon liked to use Makonovitsky students for his concertmaster position. And Guido asked Rod if he would like to be a concertmaster up in Saginaw, and Rod said, well, yeah, okay. So Guido said, come on up and play this Christmas concert. This was Christmas of 1975. And and meet Gideon, and if it all works out, you can, the gig is basically yours. And that's what happened. The three of us, I was dating Rod at the time, the three of us drove up to Saginaw on a rather gray, snowy day, played the Christmas concert, and Rod started playing concertmaster in January of 1976. And then Gideon, in his way of trying to sort of weave a web around a good prospect, started referring students to him, and his wife, Irene, who was a pianist, was referring students to me. And later in 76, Rod and I married, and our continuing association with music in Saginaw began. We moved up in 1981, and it's just a hilarious story because Leo Najjar was then the conductor. No, he was at Flynn Institute at that time, but he helped us move. So we're up in this U-Haul, driving up to Saginaw, and we had two cats who were howling the whole way, and Leo was strumming a guitar, singing, I got the Moving to Saginaw Blues. I mean, that was September of 1981, and we've been here ever since. And we've had an opportunity to do many things in Saginaw, not just play with the symphony, but play with various ensembles, play chamber music, Rod developed the symphony school. I've had a chance to teach and plan concerts. I've had works performed by the symphony. So it's been an ongoing association of many facets ever since 1981. But we actually started playing with the symphony back in the 70s.
So that was when Gideon Grau was music director.
Yeah.
And then Leo came in 1980. Who was between Gideon and Leo?
Paul Freeman.
Paul Freeman. See, I was not playing then. I met Leo in 1980 when he was conducting the Flint Youth Chamber Orchestra, and we went to Belgium together.
Oh, yeah.
And I started playing in Saginaw in 84. But you've played with Gideon, Paul Freeman, of course, Leo Najjar, Patrick Flynn,
yep,
Brett Mitchell,
yep,
and now with Fuad Fakuri.
Yep.
So it's remarkable for you and for the community that you were moved to Saginaw and have been such a part of the musical life in Saginaw. What you play with the Choral Society, right?
I do. I play with the Choral Society. I co-direct the Bijou Orchestra, which Leo started almost 20 years ago. Hard to believe that Leo passed away 8 years ago. But that orchestra had been going, and after his demise, untimely, my friend Vicki Bowden, who plays saxophone, and I have kind of kept the programming going for the Bijou Orchestra. So there's been, Leo left a very large footprint here in this area, and not just the symphony, but also that. And yes, the Choral Society, which I started as a singer in 81, and then when my children were born, I took a little time off, and now I'm the accompanist. And that's a very rewarding association. It's full of great community people of all walks of life in Saginaw. Many of them are symphony supporters and symphony season ticket holders as well.
Well, you have a whole nother facet of your musical life, which is composing. Yeah. We're running a little short of time, but tell us about your whole composing career in a few words.
Well, I'll try. I started by writing accompaniments to the Suzuki piano repertoire back in 1985. And then I started writing chamber music things for Rod's violin students to play with my students. Then Michael Panhorst, who was at that time the director of the Marshall Fredericks Gallery up at SVSU, well, a little bit before that, Mary Anderson, who was with the symphony, asked me to write a piece for Flûte, which was the professional flute quartet at SVSU, which I did. Michael Panhorst heard that and then asked me to write a piece for the Marshall Fredericks 10th anniversary and Marshall's 90th birthday. And from then, I started writing for grown-ups, and I started getting published, and I've had 3 premieres with the symphony, 3 commissioned works with the symphony over time. And I write for everything from symphony orchestra, band and chorus, concert band, all sorts of wind concertos, string, chamber music, handbell music, piano music. I've got a piano method out there. Lots and lots of unusual things. I mean, in this last year alone, I've had 4 premieres postponed. One is a trombone sonata. One is a vocal song set. One is a concert band piece, and one is a symphony orchestra piece. And so, I mean, I'm so fortunate to have these opportunities. And not only that, they all get played, and they all get paid for too. So it's a thrilling opportunity, and I try and make every piece a real, you know, I just don't want to squander it and just, you know, write something out. I love the research. I love knowing the person or group I'm writing for and trying to make it suit them and make it unique and meaningful. I'm a tonal composer. You know, I like melodies. I like time signatures and key signatures. And I'm a bit of a throwback, but somehow it's kind of successful. I've probably written close to 1,000 different things, some large and some small.
Must be an incredible blast for you. I've played in the orchestra for all the pieces we've done with the Saginaw Bay Symphony Orchestra, and you're typically there playing the keyboard part. But also, you're sharing the stage with your husband, Rod, and your son, Nathan.
Yeah.
What a blast to make music that you wrote with your husband and son there and the rest of the orchestra. It's
like making music with your family. I love the players in the symphony. Many of them are good friends that we've had them for dinner, including yourself, many other people. My kids have grown up knowing the members, the players of the symphony. Now Nathan's playing on stage, Meredith's in the audience, and it's kind of bigger than it's the sum of its parts. You know, it's a very central part of our lives here in Saginaw. I mean, I'm one of the few local players, but I would travel to play in Saginaw. You know, if I lived in Ann Arbor, I'd come up here to play this orchestra, but I'm fortunate that it's right in my own backyard. So it's been a very rewarding association all these years.
I am really sorry to say that our time is running out. It's been such a joy to talk with you, and we could go on for 3-4 hours.
Yeah, we
sure. But, they need something about this. So I think we share this hope that we'll be back together playing again sometime soon. We'll be on stage playing on October 10th. Even though our beloved audience will not be there at the Temple Theater, they'll be able to join us at home on their televisions. And this is temporary. This will pass. We will all get together and make music together once more on stage at the Temple Theater. So thank you for your time, and I can't wait till the next time we're making music together.
Me too. I will see you in October, if not before.
Sounds great. Have a great day, Catherine.
Thank you, Greg. Bye.
Bye-bye.